Okay, this is now the 5 Minute Tarot for the 29th of September 2017. And if I can begin this way, I've got a lot. I've had comments on earlier videos from the last little while that I haven't replied to yet, but I will. It's just sometimes things happen that you can't get to do what you are supposed to do or think you ought to do. And the same as some emails that some people have sent me. I haven't replied for one reason or another. And it's sort of not good enough, but it's just I haven't replied yet, but I will get to it quite soon. So now that my apology is out the way, today in this video, I wanted to speak about it's a bit like beginning a reading so that you have the right questions, kind of. And it's because somebody emailed me and he was a bit concerned about, he was concerned about his daughter, who's 10 or 11, that kind of age. And he was looking at what she was doing and he wasn't that happy with it. And so he wanted to do some kind of reading to find out the best way to handle the situation, or maybe it was to reassure him and his wife about the daughter, or maybe he wanted to know about the daughter's long. It was one of those situations where he had a concern about a particular individual and he wasn't sure what kind of question to ask, like how many cards should he pick? What should the question be? Should he have more than one question or whatever? And he asked me what I thought. So it's a bit like a lot of people will have you, and they devote websites to this about designing your own spread. So you figure out, you want to know, one card is going to show what the other person thinks, and another card, the other person's subconscious fears, and then one for your fears. And, you know, they come up with all these logical sounding positions or cards for, and so you choose a card in that particular position and it's supposed to answer the question that you think or that you decided was a good question to ask, or one that was important, or one that was going to give you information that you could work with. It was going to give a clear answer or give an idea of what best to do, and it was going to be clear. And I've said before that designing a spread is really not very easy, and don't do it. So if you're going to do anything, do a 3-card yes, no, a 3-card past, present, future, or a Celtic cross, or a horoscope spread if you've lots of time. Because it's partly because let's say somebody comes along and they've got a question, and their question is, okay, my partner, I'm using partner because it could be husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. So my romantic partner, call it the partner, my partner's always late. You know, how come? What can I do about it? So you think, okay, so we're going to pick one card for why is the partner generally late, another card for what can he or she do about it, a third card for what can the questioner, how should or could the questioner handle the lateness on the part of the partner, right? That kind of thing. So you come up with a bunch of questions, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 questions to do with the situation about the partner being late. And then you answer the question, or you pick cards and you relate the card that comes up to the question or the area that you'd asked about. The only problem is, and I think this is a general rule, that there's what appears to be going on and what's really going on, and they're not always the same. And it's okay. I've got an example. Okay, an example of that is the partner being late. It may be that maybe the partner was late now and again, but the problem often is that we see fault in other people that are really in us. And it may be that the questioner wanted to know, okay, how come the partner's always late? But the problem is that the partner is the one who's late, but the questioner is the one who's late, but doesn't see it. It doesn't recognize the fault, so to speak. in him or herself and sees it in somebody else. So there's what appears to be going on, which is that the partner is always late. And what's really going on is the questioner doesn't see or can't admit to themselves that they're the one with the problem of being late or being on time. So we've got what appears to be going on, what appears to be going on, and what's really going on. So if we had done the answer about why is the partner late, how are they going to handle it, how can the questioner handle it, all those questions are maybe quite interesting, but they're kind of beside the point, because what's really going on is how is the questioner going to come to recognize that they have a problem with not being on time, and how are they going to, and obviously it's a concern of theirs, because otherwise they wouldn't have asked about what they see in the partner. Right? So you can have faults that you're unaware of or unconscious of, but they're not particularly important until you begin to see them in other people. When you begin to identify problems in other people, that's when it's time to look at yourself and figure out what you can do for you. I was going to talk about 1 and 2 and the sun and the moon and so on, but I think I'll leave it for another time. So I think so we've got questioners ask questions about other people when really they ought to be focusing on themselves and their own situation. So what I said to the fellow who sent me the email was, what to do is pick a card, one card, to know what questions to ask. It wasn't think of what question to ask, like multiple questions, and then pick a card for each one of them, but to pick a card, a single card, so that you, the reader, can know what kind of questions to ask. And if I can give a couple of examples of that, let's say, okay, we've got the situation with the daughter and we're not quite sure what kind of question to ask and what should be done or what she should do and the whole bit. Okay, so we need to know what kind of questions to ask. We shuffle, pick a card, and let's say we get the 3 of Batons. So the 3 of Batons in the rider deck shows this person looking into the distance. There are ships, he's on a hillside, and he's looking down. So he's looking into the distance, which can mean he's looking into the future. So what you do is, the questioner asking about the daughter, ask questions about the long term rather than what's going on right now. Because the 3 of Batons shows somebody looking into the distance. So think about what you want, what the daughter's long-term future is, or what kind of situation they would like for the daughter, let's say when she's 20, because she's at 10 or 11 now, maybe when she's 20 or 25. And if they have an idea of what is logical or what's reasonable for the daughter to be doing when she's in her mid-20s or when she's 20, then that gives them a way of understanding and treating correctly the daughter as she is right now and when she's 12 and 14 and 15. So if the question had been for the fellow who wrote the email, maybe, he wasn't sure what questions to ask for himself, let's say. So what you do is you pick a card, you get, let's say, the 3 of Batons. So think about what the outcome is that you want or what you're going to go for, and know how the present situation fits into the bigger picture, or how the present situation is going to fit into the more distant future. I was trying to give an example with this, and I thought, I've been looking at videos on playing the piano recently, and I thought maybe, let's say somebody wants to know about the future and about the piano. And so at the moment they're learning to play the piano. So if we pick the 3 of Batons, we think about, where do you want to go with your piano playing? Do you want to become a professional pianist and play classical music and get an agent and so on? And maybe that's not what you want. But maybe what you're going to do is you're going to like to compose and create and play the piano. And maybe you're going to end up making background music for videos, because lots of videos of background music. Or maybe you're going to discover that you've got a talent for little short jingles that can be used in commercials. So yes, you're playing the piano, but it's not so much what are you going to do with the piano next month or in the autumn or next season. It's more like, what's the long-term plan for playing the piano, and where do you want to end up? And so if you ask the tarot questions about the long-term future of you and your relationship with the piano, then that's the kind of question to ask. And you're going to get answers that will give you an idea of the direction you ought to go in over the long term. Or maybe you look at those 3 batons and you think, 3 batons, 3 people. So who are these other people? So the question that you're going to ask is about your partnerships, or about the people you're involved with professionally, or the people that you're involved with in projects that you're involved in right now. And so your question should be about these people. Are they suitable? Are they correct for you? Are they going to do what they say they're going to do? Can you trust them? Are they reliable? So you choose cards to get an idea of the character and personality and trustworthiness, maybe, of the people that you're involved with now. Or maybe instead of the 3 batons representing people, maybe they represent other jobs you're doing, or ideas that you're interested in, or situations. And what is the role of the situation, or the role of these various ideas in your long-term future? So you choose a single card, and then you think about it and see what it's telling you about what kinds of questions you ought to ask. And another example is, let's say you want to know, okay, what should I ask about? Or how should we approach this question the person's got? And let's say you choose the Fool. So the Fool is a major trump. So it can be that you should ask the kinds of questions, or ask questions about the kind of life you're going to live, or you ought to live, if you're going to experience full satisfaction and enjoyment. And knowing that you are doing in some way what you're meant to do, right? So you want to, if you can answer or deal with questions about your purpose in life, and how best to live, and what kinds of things to be involved in, so that you can make the most of yourself and make the most of the opportunities that you have in life. Those are the kinds of questions to ask. Or you choose a card and you approach it to give you information about how best the person can live. And the answer is going to be the kind, what's best for the individual is going to be different for different people. And maybe one last point, the Fool can also represent about to step off a cliff, and it's taking a risk, right? So you're trusting your luck. So maybe what you do is, we need to know what kind of questions to ask. So ask questions about what kind of risk you ought to take, or it's safe to take. Because we don't want to take risks that, I imagine we don't want to take risks that are just going to end up with accidents and disaster. So taking a risk is okay, but so maybe you want to ask questions about the nature of the kind of risk that it's okay to take, as well as maybe some kind of indication about the odds of success. Because if you take a risk and it's risky, but there's an 85% chance it's going to work out, that's okay. Whereas you're going to do something and there's a certain amount of risk involved, but if there's only a 5% chance that you're going to be successful, do you really want to do it? And probably, unless you're a great gambler or unless you're nuts, you don't want to do it if there's only going to be a 5% chance of being successful. Okay, that as usual turned out to be longer than I expected, but I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll be back in a couple of days. It's going to be October next time we meet. Okay, thanks for watching. Thumbs up, like it, tell your friends, tell your enemies. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again. Okay, bye-bye.